A shocking and tense courtroom showdown unfolds as 20-year-old Mr. Hopkins faces serious charges after a violent encounter with his ex-girlfriend and two police officers. The young defendant's attorney pleads passionately for a bond reduction, emphasizing that Hopkins has a job, no prior criminal record, and arguing that the alleged struggle with law enforcement was a misunderstanding, insisting the officers simply fell rather than being punched. But prosecutors paint a far more alarming picture. They claim Hopkins struck not one, but two officers, injuring one's finger, forcing police to deploy a taser to regain control, and creating a chaotic scene that could have ended far worse. Judge Simpson carefully reviews the evidence and listens to both sides, visibly stunned by the defense's portrayal of events. The courtroom atmosphere is thick with tension as everyone realizes the gravity of what actually happened. The video evidence leaves little room for doubt. The taser deployment was real, the officers were injured, and the alleged actions were undeniably serious. In the end, the judge firmly denies the motion to reduce bond or modify conditions, citing the violent nature of the crimes and the risk posed to law enforcement. The ruling sends a clear message about accountability and the serious consequences that come with violent behavior. As spectators absorb the shocking reality, the courtroom remains tense and unsettled, a vivid reminder that even a single moment of aggression can spiral into life-changing legal consequences. This case is a dramatic example of how quickly things can escalate, how law enforcement faces real danger, and how the justice system responds when the line is crossed.
As to bond?
Your Honor, we are just looking to address the condition of bond that requires that Mr. Hopkins be on house arrest. Prior to this matter, Mr. Hopkins was employed as a result of having the tether police. No longer able to, in this case, he was no longer able to maintain that employment. He is hoping to be able to get new employment and is asking that the court consider a no go-to order, a no contact order, or anything of that nature. My client, Mr. Hopkins, also recently registered for the cybersecurity program. Text me that information. I tried to send the confirmation to Ms. Barroso so that she would be able to see it. It's my understanding that the classes are majority online, but that would be the only place that he would have to come across Chenal County. Otherwise, he's just asking for some order that would allow him to work and just not have that kind of contact.
Response.
Your Honor, the bond in this case was set at $5,000 cash or surety when we requested a $50,000 bond. In this case, the people are uncomfortable with him being out. This was an event for a series of events that occurred where the defendant assaulted the victim at not one but two locations. An eyewitness saw the defendant shove the victim while near the police station. The police attempted to make contact with the defendant, and then he picked up, as a result of him resisting, picked up 5 counts of R&O against 4 different officers. One of those 5 counts is an R&O causing injury that was so severe that the officer is actually seeking specialized medical treatment from an orthopedic surgeon. At this point, this is a 9.
So hold on. There was a DV and then an officer injured. Why is he out?
Your Honor, if I could address.
Hold on. I'll let Ms. Barroso finish and then you can address it. I just had an intermediate question. Go ahead.
So at this point, I don't think that a modification of bond removing him from being on house arrest is appropriate. We objected to a nominal bond of $5,000 when it was originally granted. At this point, I don't think that any further reduction is appropriate.
A couple of things. First of all, Mr. Hopkins is here with his father. He is 20 years old. He has no prior criminal history. In reviewing the police report and the video, even the report references that the altercation the incidents that resulted in this charge, that there were,
In which
that it was,
charge?
I'll start with the domestic violence. That with those charges, that that there was a more complicated situation. I believe the officer said, the report says something to the effect of, and this would also go to the property, that there had been physical altercations between the two of them, fighting between the two of them, and breaking of objects between the two of them. So I believe that there's more to this than said. The allegations of the domestic violence are the one of the shoving, and also I believe Mr. Hopkins taking his own computer back from the complainant. That's the second allegation of the domestic violence. And the resisting and obstructing is, the allegations are that Mr. Hopkins, not that Mr. Hopkins turned around and slammed someone or punched them or anything, that he pulled away. The allegation is the officer fell and that caused the injury. And then that officer fell, yes, as he pulled away. And then subsequently, 4 officers who were, some of whom just pulled up on the scene in the video, all ran after him. And that's where the resisting and obstructing comes. And he did, in fact, eventually stop. It was not, it's not as if he were in a vehicle and went miles or hours away. He did stop running, and he did, once they complied, once that occurred, there were no further incidents. So,
Your Honor, I'm sorry, that is not the characterization of the R&O. The allegations include him punching 2 officers in the face, breaking free of their grasp, causing them to fall to the ground, twisting and seriously injuring an officer's finger. And then it went on for such a period of time that an officer had to point and deploy a taser. And that another officer had to point their pistol at a defendant. So at the defendant. So at this point, I don't think it was him passively.
Your Honor, I had an opportunity to view the video.
The courtroom was filled with tension as 20-year-old Mr. Hopkins faced serious charges following a violent incident with his ex-girlfriend that escalated far beyond what anyone could have imagined. What began as a personal conflict quickly spiraled into a confrontation with law enforcement, leaving 1 officer injured and the entire courtroom watching in disbelief. The defense argued passionately on Hopkins' behalf, highlighting that he was employed, had no prior criminal history, and claiming that the alleged altercation with the officers had been misunderstood. According to the defense, the officers had not been punched but had instead lost their balance during the struggle. However, the prosecution told a far different story, one that painted a far more alarming picture. They described how Hopkins allegedly struck not just 1, but 2 police officers, causing injury to 1 and forcing law enforcement to deploy a taser in an attempt to regain control. The courtroom grew silent as the gravity of the accusation settled in. The evidence included video footage showing the moment the taser was deployed, leaving little room for doubt. Judge Simpson reviewed the footage carefully, expressing clear disbelief at the defense's version of events. Every detail seemed to intensify the tension, the seriousness of the injuries, the threat posed to law enforcement, and the chaotic scene all weighed heavily on the room. Throughout the hearing, the defense tried to humanize Hopkins, emphasizing his employment, his clean record, and arguing that the resisting charges had been mischaracterized. They painted him as a young man who made a mistake, hoping the judge would consider his character and the possibility of rehabilitation. But the prosecution countered with a focus on accountability, highlighting the severity of the alleged actions and the risk posed to the officers involved. Every argument, every word carried weight as the courtroom seemed to hang on the outcome, knowing the stakes were high and the consequences could be life-changing. As the hearing progressed, the intensity grew. The prosecution detailed the events, describing how Hopkins' actions had escalated the situation to the point where physical intervention and a taser were necessary. They highlighted the danger to law enforcement officers, the injury sustained, and the disruption caused by the alleged attack. The defense continued to insist that the officer's version of events was exaggerated, claiming Hopkins did not intend harm and that the video footage had been misinterpreted. Yet every time the video was reviewed, the tension in the courtroom increased. The reality of the taser deployment, the officer's injuries, and the severity of the situation became undeniable. Judge Simpson's reactions throughout the hearing were telling. The disbelief, the careful attention to every piece of evidence, and the focus on the safety of the officers emphasized how seriously the court took the matter. The courtroom was silent as the judge weighed the arguments, the evidence, and the character of the defendant. The decision carried consequences not only for Hopkins, but for the broader message it sent about violent confrontations and the role of law enforcement. Ultimately, the judge delivered a firm and decisive ruling. The motion to reduce bond or modify conditions was denied. The violent nature of the alleged attacks, particularly against law enforcement, could not be overlooked. The courtroom absorbed the weight of the decision, and it became clear that the legal system would hold the defendant accountable for his actions. The case serves as a powerful reminder of how quickly a situation can escalate and how the choices made in a moment of conflict can have serious, lasting repercussions. For viewers, this is more than just a legal proceeding. It's a real-life demonstration of accountability, consequence, and the tension that unfolds when law enforcement is involved. Every word, every reaction, and every piece of evidence paints a picture of the seriousness of the situation and the risks associated with violent behavior. Mr. Hopkins's story reminds us that even young adults with no prior criminal history can face life-altering consequences when their actions cross the line, and that the courtroom is a place where the gravity of those actions is measured carefully. This case captures the intensity, drama, and emotional weight of real-life courtroom proceedings. From the defense's attempts to mitigate the situation, to the prosecution's detailed recounting of the incident, to the judge's careful review of the evidence and ultimate decision, the hearing demonstrates how quickly lives can be affected by one moment of violence. For the audience, it's a gripping narrative, filled with suspense and the stark reality of legal consequences. The courtroom becomes a stage where character, actions, and justice collide, leaving viewers with a vivid impression of the serious responsibilities involved in both personal choices and law enforcement. As the gavel fell, the courtroom remained in stunned silence. The ruling was final, and the implications were clear. Violent actions, no matter the circumstances, carry serious consequences. For Mr. Hopkins, the decision marked the beginning of a legal journey that would follow him for years to come. For everyone watching, it was a reminder that choices matter, that actions have consequences, and that accountability is not optional. The courtroom drama serves as a cautionary tale, illustrating the high stakes of conflict and the powerful role of the justice system in addressing it. Even after the hearing, the story continues to resonate. It's a narrative of tension, consequence, and the collision between human error and the rule of law. The events show how quickly ordinary situations can escalate and the seriousness with which the legal system treats threats to law enforcement. For audiences, it's a compelling reminder that actions, even those that seem small or misunderstood, can have far-reaching repercussions. The courtroom captures the intensity of real-life decisions and the permanent impact of one moment of aggression. Every part of the hearing, from the defense's arguments to the prosecution's detailed recounting, from the video evidence to the judge's careful attention, contributes to a story that is dramatic, cautionary, and deeply human. The case of Mr. Hopkins demonstrates how legal proceedings are not just about facts, but about character, accountability, and the consequences of one's choices. For viewers, it's a gripping and unforgettable account of courtroom drama, showing the tension, emotion, and real-world stakes that make these cases so compelling.
You had an opportunity to view the video.
Yes.
Let me ask you this. Was a taser deployed?
Your Honor, when the, and
I
as
think
soon,
that's either yes or no.
Your
Was
Honor,
was a taser deployed?
Your Honor, as soon as the officer saw him, she
Mr.
pointed the
Allen.
taser at him. This is not, as soon as she saw him, she pointed the taser at him. This is
So-
not a situation where he was running and pointed the taser.
I didn't ask that, Ms. Gaines. I did not ask that.
Yes, sir.
Was the taser deployed?
Yes, it was.
Did an officer have to draw their weapon?
I did not see that. I could not see that on the video.
Ms. Barroso, are you indicating an officer had to draw their weapon?
That is what was indicated to me in the file, Your Honor. Yes.
And then there's an officer that's injured. Again, we'll ask the question. I don't know why this individual's out.
Again, Your Honor, he's 20 years old. He has no prior history, and he has no reason to come back to Washtenaw County other than for school in this case. It's my understanding, I have not heard any information that he has had any contact with the complainant, has violated any orders. He is just asking to be able to go to work and to be able to get a job and go to work. Your Honor, would you want to hear from Mr. Hopkins' father, who's present?
I don't know what he could tell me at this point in time. I'm more worried about the bond as it originally is set. Does he have prior convictions for anything?
No, Your Honor.
That the original domestic was about. I mean, I'm trying to figure out, because I'll just tell you, I have some serious concerns that this escalated to a point that officers are having to deploy a taser, pull their weapon, and there are clearly enough officers around to, in my opinion, have subdued this individual without having to do all of that. So something else is going on. And
Your Honor,
I also have, I mean, one's bad enough, but I have 2 counts of domestic violence.
again, Your Honor, one of them is him taking back his own computer. That's one of the allegations. And that's why I'm saying there were things that were happening before this. That's not to excuse his behavior. That is to say that there's broader context. And in my view of the video, initially there was 1 officer, then there were 2, and he managed to, and he ran from 2, but as he's running from those 2, there are cars, 4 and 5 cars are pulling up with sirens on an unarmed young man who clearly panicked. This is not someone who's had police involvement, who has a history of contact with law enforcement and the criminal justice system. Again, I'm not excusing, but I do think that there is, there's more. I think there are more nuances to this than the prosecutor does.
Well, explain some of those then. Because I've got a victim of a DV that's injured.
She is not, the domestic violence person is not injured. It was the shove and the taking of there's no injury to her. Your Honor.
Domestic violence are 2 misdemeanor counts.
That is
The felonies here are 5 counts of are 5 counts.
Yeah,
of
I see that.
Are no causing it.
Maybe I misread that on the report, but
Yes.
the injury to the fingers, that's the officer.
That's correct.
Thank you. I don't understand this. I mean, I don't, there's a lot I don't understand. How, and I get there are resisting and obstructings that are filed that some may look at as questionable in terms of the charge. I get that. But I'm also trying to figure out how an officer gets injured, that there are punches to the face of officers. I mean, Ms. Gaines, I don't get it.
I understand what you're saying, and I'm saying I did not see any punches to the face when I observed.
Not changing any conditions. Can you explain to me one reason why I shouldn't raise his bond?
Your Honor, he has appeared for every court date, and he has not picked up any new charges. He has not had any contact with the complainant on the domestic violence or any of the officers. My understanding from him is that he has only come to Washtenaw County for court. He does not even reside in this county. It does not appear he's a flight risk, nor that he is a danger to the community. He is here with his father. He has come to every court date, and he's highly responsive to my calls and texts. And absent the no offer in this matter, we'd be looking to resolve it.
Anything else from the people?
No, Your Honor.
You know what? I'm not changing his condition in the bond. I'm not at this juncture gonna up his bond either, although of rights I should. Of rights, I don't think he should be out around tethered or not, given that behavior. But I'll let Judge Perry deal with that after she hears the preliminary examination. Bond will continue. Motion for bond reduction or changing condition is denied.
Thank you.